Hi everyone, it's been a while, but I'm back with this follow along video because I was asked on the YouTube channel to show how I create scenes like these where there's a grander scale involved, and yeah, it's all about scale, a little bit of trickery, so let's get started. So we are starting with the foreground, which is something I'm going to share with you in the description. You can use any other, but if you want to follow along, then we're going to use this height map. So we're going to True Terrain, we're using a height map. You will go to File and then open up where you have saved the file I'm sharing with you. It's called Ground Hills, and you just bring that in. And why this one is a good start is because I have created a sort of path already. So the next thing is we're going to lowest because it sits on the floor nicely, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm decreasing the size of this map to 100 meters. Why? Because eventually we're going to scatter a lot of stuff there, and so we don't have to rescale a lot of those assets. Of course, with 100 meters the height multiplier needs to be adopted as well, and I have found that 0.03 is good enough. So let's take a look and find a nice camera angle. So what we need to take care of is that we've got enough room here on the horizon to put our hills and eventually mountains in here. So something like that would look okay. So the next thing I like to do is I usually go, I'm just adding a 0 to the resolution, and then the view amount to 0.5, so it's a quarter. So that still gives me enough flexibility here, and I'm getting a nice view on the terrain. So let's see, let's go with texturing. As you can see, I'm using -2 exposure with a simple single scattering sky texture in Blender 501. So here's my settings, and now let's go to shading, and we just need 3 textures. The first one is some sort of grass. You can take any one of the True Terrain pack already, or you use something that you have imported yourself. I'm partial to my own green rock from the Berg pack you can get, because it provides you with a pretty nice mixture of ground and earth and gravel and things like that. However, you can see it already, you need to increase the roughness because it's far too glossy, so I'm just putting a 10 in here. So next we're going to bring in some rocks. You can take whatever you want, like this dark rock from the True Terrain pack. Going to increase the scale so it looks realistically here. A little bit of displacement. Also I'm increasing the roughness to 5, and with a mask I'm using a slope mask. I like the preview shader, and I'm inverting that because then I'm bringing back everything that is black will be our grass. So something like that. Yeah, that's okay. And last but not least, we need our path. So let's go with, I don't know, plants and sticks. That would be actually quite good, but as this is a custom material, I probably won't be able to get that, so let's go with brown gravel. That's a standard in true terrain. Bring that in, increase, so it looks something like that. And the mask we're using here will be a path mask. And we're going to draw that in where we have our path more or less in the geometry already. Something like this. Nice. And then I'm increasing the fall off a bit so it looks a little bit more natural. Right, so that's our foreground. And what we should do is actually call that front or foreground. Call it what you want. Okay. Now, let's clear this one, click somewhere else, and go to terrain, and we're going to create another terrain, which eventually will be the same as we have used right now. So let's do the ground hills again. And this time we're going to use it fully. I never know where exactly my camera is, so let's bring that over here, rotate that for a bit, something like that. I don't like these edges of the terrain, so let's rotate it a little bit more, or scale it up a little bit. Yeah, something like this should be okay. And we're going to do the same thing over here. And viewport amount to 0.25. And what we should do is use the grade option of camera culling over here, like so. You can go to main or raycast and then just decrease the amount of padding over here. And we're actually going to do the same thing, and this one we're going to call hills. So we're picking our front, and we're going to use the camera culling as well. Same thing here, like so. That's good because it decreases the vertices in our scene. Now, back again to our hills, and let's see, we're going to do the same stuff, and we just need two materials over here. So let's go with some standard materials. Let's go with dark grass over here. Scale it up a little bit. We can see the floor here, so I like to get rid of the raster or whatever it is called, and we're going to take some dark rock over here, scale it up so we can actually see some of the rock texture, and then again we're going to use slope, invert it, increase the slope gradually, so like so, something like this. Okay, we've got our hills, and last but not least we're going to depin our hills. Go to terrain, create terrain. We can actually use any of these mountains. So let's go with mountain number 6. Bring it in. Now we know exactly where this stuff needs to be, something like here. We can bring this up like so. We need to be careful because we've got a gap here, so that's easily fixed. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure our mountains start outside of the camera, and we can scale it up a little bit like so. Then with Alt D we're going to duplicate this, rotate it so it doesn't look like the same mountain as well. So we're bringing that a little bit to the back. Alt D, bring it over here. You can scale it up as you want, bring it up like so. So you can play with this, you get the gist. You'll do whatever you want with that. So one more time, like so. Yeah. Rotate it as you want, yeah, something like this. That's cool as well. Right. Okay. Now, same thing over here. As we've all deduplicated them, everything you do to one of those will be applied to the other. So, as you can see, if we're changing the resolution for one, it applies to all of them. 0.25. And we're going to use, you can pick whichever you want, it doesn't matter. And then we're going to the shader and we're going to use a preset which is already there. We're going to take Snowy Mountains, and that would look like that. So we're going to do a little bit of editing here. I'm not a huge fan of the light rock over there, so we're going to take this one like so, and this one, which one? This and this, both the same, so let's go with this one. Okay, and this is a huge amount of displacement, so I'm usually decreasing that to 3 and that to 3 as well. And the snow mask from the preset has a slope mask and an attribute mask. The attribute mask is erosion level, water, things like that, which is all great, but let's get rid of that. And so we've got snow everywhere. What I like to do is use a simple normal mask, because let's use the preview, slowly increase the Z so you can have the snow creep up on the mountain like so. And I like that a little bit better. And now let's give this a render, because we can then see it in full resolution and you will see how nice the snow looks. Right, I'm fine with the background mountains. Now, where does scale come to? It's kind of coming through, but the difference between the hills and the foreground is not that pronounced. So what we're going to do is now is pick our hills. And again, we're starting with the scattering phase. So what we're going to do is use one of the presets, and I'm using the fir tree forest. And as I said before, as this is 1,000 per 1,000 meters, it should already be pretty much in scale. But what you can see is, because our geometry goes below the 0 point on the z-axis, and it brings too much of assets below where we can't see it, what we're going to do is we're going to add a height mask, which gives us much more control. As you can see already, it is pretty nice. We're going to decrease that a little bit so it goes down, and a slope mask as well, because I don't want trees to grow on our cliff, so we make that pretty exclusive with 0.5, something like that. And in the scatter itself, we're going to open this up, and these are the trees. These are stumps, which we're not going to use, and we're not going to use the rocks as well. You can see there's a density target, so we don't see anything or everything that will be scattered over there. So let's see what that setting results in. Should be done in a couple of seconds. Let's see. You can already see it from the beginning, and that's pretty nice. Okay. Actually good enough. I would love to have more open space over here. We could use this with a texture mask, but just for this video, I think we're good on that. So we have that, and it already gives you a much better feeling of scale and perspective. But eventually, so let's see the difference. 1 and 2, and now we are doing the scatter. So what we can do, and that's important, we could go with show particles, which eases the strain on your system a bit. If you don't forget to activate it, you could actually hide it. They won't render in that setting, so we need to remember to turn them on again. Get rid of this and pick our front, and let's create a scatter system. Layer, no, just the default one. Okay. And you could use some of the assets from True Terrain, but in standard they don't offer a lot of variety in grasses. So the great thing with True Terrain is that you can use any asset. And I'm using some from Grasswald, which is free. You can go down there, I mean, you've got to register, but it's totally free, and create your own asset library, which I have done for myself. A lot of grass stuff over here, so you can use whatever you want. So I'm just clicking on some of those and click on scatter selected. They're pretty high density, but we've got them here. So the first thing we're going to do is, as you can see, they're all over this scene. So with the mask, we're going to use a path mask. And we already have a path, so we're picking our curve over here. You can see all the assets are just selected or scattered on our path. And we want exactly the opposite, so we're going to invert that and increase the distance. So we've got grass everywhere, but not on our path. And we're also going to use our slope mask and decrease that, so we've got it only on the flat stuff. And last but not least, no, that's fine. So because we need other assets as well, and I don't want to do this path and slope setting all over again, what we can do is we can click on store all as attribute, call this attribute grass, and before we go to scattering anything else, we're going to slightly increase that, so it gives us a little bit more nearness of the front section of our scene. And we're going over to, instead of 1000, which we're seeing, we're going to density. And as you can see, density 0.01. Let's go with 1, and give this a quick render, which will take a little bit longer because Blender needs to load the textures of the assets in. You can see that over there, but it shouldn't take that long. If it does, we need to now cut this off until we can see it, but I'm confident we'll see that. And we're going to add some other grasses, some flowers in separate scattering systems, because it gives us, okay, what can we see here? More control. That's okay. Probably could use even a little bit more, but as we're going to use other grass assets as well. So as you can see, the difference is between the last render and this one, it's almost double. Not the same, but never mind. So let's go to the next so we can see the difference. So again, we're going to use a couple of those, say new layer, and scatter selected. So we're going to hide that. As you can see, these are really small. So let's go with something like this. And we're going to mask. We're taking an attribute mask. And if you click on this, you don't see the attribute we've done. So all you have to do is unlock the attribute section, click grass, and then we've got the same thing over here. And we're doing the same thing as well. And we're going with one and play with the seed. So we've got something like that. And before we take a look at how that looks, we're going to add some flower stuff. Let's go with, I don't know, something like this. Yeah, new layer, scatter selected. Takes a bit to load in. I think we've got it. Let's get rid of those. Mask, attribute, should be already unlocked. Grass. Open this up a little bit, like so. Play with the slope mask, like so. And play with the scattering. Yeah, something like this. Looks okay. Same thing, density 1. Bring all of them in. And let's render this one, because actually what we could do is go back to our hill section and activate our trees as well, and because eventually excuse me, eventually the main scene is ready right now. Everything we're going to do right now, or from now, is play with lighting, and that will be done with True Sky 3 and add some additional stuff. As you can see, we have too many of the flowers in there. I mean, it looks nice, cool, but it's just too much. So let's wait and see how much time we actually needed. Last time it was roughly a minute. Right now it will take, I don't know, 1 minute 5 or 10 or something like that, if at all. So we definitely need to decrease our flower stuff. So the last one we put in there. Yeah, 1 minute 5. Let's see, so let's pick our front. Oh, it was 4. I did 4, so that's too much. Let's do 0.5. Let's see what that does for us. We could probably increase the density with the initial grass. But let's see. Yeah, better. To be honest, I don't like the orangey stuff, and that was the second layer, and we're going to change that. But this is something I'm just doing for myself, because I don't know if you've got those assets, so you probably have something pretty nice as well, or already. So just make the scene looking good for myself. So that's okay, but we're going to delete the second one, and we're going to put something flat over there. What we should do or could do, because the problem is excuse me, the problem is they're not rendered icons, so I don't know right now what they look like. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to make those invisible, and if I just put that one in here and scale that up, let's see. Okay, yeah, that's okay. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to go to another of my asset libraries and go like grasses. I'm going to take those two, new layer, scatter selected. Okay, that happens as well. Like scatter selected. We're going to use the attribute mask, which is grass. We're going to increase the scale, like so, and we're going to increase the density to 2, and the slope mask we're going to increase, so we've got a little bit more of that. And then we're going to check if that works a little bit better. Let's see what we've got here. Yeah, I like that better already. Yes, I'm taking this. That's okay. And finish this off, we're going to add some trees. Let's stop this, make it like so, and we're going to add some trees. You probably have Botanic, or you can go to the TT library shader, and let's put, I don't know what kind of tree we should put in there. Maybe just so. Let's go with this one. We're going to put it right here. Scale it up like so. Rotate it. And we can just use that Alt-D, bring it over here. Rotate it as we want. So we've got a bit of framing over there, and what we also can do is, I think we've got some stones over here, like the forest rock. This one over here. And that could and should be it. Let's give this proper render. And if you have something you can put on this path, like a person, you will have an immediate sense of scale that something is in the front, something is in the back. You could also work with the mist layer and do a bit of compositing, but right now I have shown you how I would create a large or a scene, a landscape, which provides you with a sense of depth. So of course there's a lot of tweaking you could do, like add more grasses and put other trees in there. So it would also be nice if you put a tree line over here, which is a little bit down on the horizon, because then it looks like the front is sloping down towards the hills. You can do all of this, but that is the basic composition I use. So if you found this helpful, great, like and subscribe. And in the second part we're going to use True Sky 3 to make this scene more atmospheric. Hope to see you there. Thanks. Bye.